The water was unnervingly calm, reflecting a sky bruised with clouds. My boat sat at the dock, silent, a familiar rhythm of security I had trusted for years. But tonight, that calm was shattered. She appeared, Karen, confident, entitled, stepping aboard my boat as if it were hers. Her friends laughed behind her, oblivious to the storm about to crash over their arrogance. The engine roared, slicing through the night, and with each careless maneuver, she drifted further into territory she didn't understand. I watched from the shadows, invisible but fully aware. Trained in ways she could never imagine, I sensed every movement, every misstep, every false sense of control she carried. The sea doesn't negotiate, and neither would I. The moon hid behind clouds, casting jagged shadows on the waves, turning the stolen joyride into a stage for consequences. Her laughter cut through the air, fragile and fleeting, and the first threads of inevitability began to coil around the boat. She had stolen my property, but more dangerously, she had crossed paths with someone who knew the waters, knew the rules, and knew how to enforce them. Hit subscribe, watch till the end. The marina had always been a quiet refuge. Early mornings smelled of salt and varnish, of wood warmed by the sun, and of water moving with an eternal patience that only the ocean could command. My boat had been more than a vessel. It was a sanctuary, a place where every rope, cleat, and polished surface carried the weight of discipline, trust, and countless hours of meticulous care. It was a place where the rhythm of the waves matched the rhythm of my own resolve. But Karen didn't see any of that. To her, the world existed only for her convenience, her amusement, her entitlement. For weeks, she had hovered at the edges, glances full of calculation, waiting for a moment when she could assert her dominance over spaces she believed belonged to everyone but me. The HOA may have looked the other way in countless small ways, but tonight, her intrusion crossed a line that demanded more than complaints or polite confrontation. Tonight, the stolen boat became a symbol of every boundary she had ignored, not just mine, but those of decency, fairness, and respect. Her friends followed behind her, laughing, oblivious to the tension that coiled in the air. The engine's hum had been silent when I arrived, a promise of potential energy held in balance. Now it roared beneath their careless hands, slicing through the calm, each vibration traveling through the dock, into the water, and into my chest. I felt it in every fiber of my being. The neighborhood, usually alive with subtle judgment and quiet alliances, was asleep or pretending to be. The HOA had long taught residents that compliance and favor outweighed justice. A smile here, a nod there, a wink from someone in the right place, all ensured that entitlement thrived and accountability faltered. Karen understood that unspoken code better than anyone. She relied on it. She thrived on it. And for her, my boat was merely the next obstacle to be claimed. I stayed hidden at the edge, breathing in the salt-heavy air, ears tuned to the rhythm of the waves, eyes tracking the subtle flicker of shadows on the water. My training with the Coast Guard had taught me patience, observation, and precision. In every mission, every emergency, every operation, the world had moved at the pace of preparation, not impulse. And tonight, that discipline would be everything. Her first careless turn, the slight tilt of the bow as she aimed for open water, revealed more than skilllessness. It revealed confidence that would soon collide with consequences. Each laugh she let loose carried a fragile arrogance that could not survive contact with experience. The boat, which had carried me safely through storms and patrols, now carried a storm of its own. I noticed every detail, the angle of the sun disappearing behind clouds, the weight of her friends shifting with the waves, the low whistle of the wind through rigging. Every element mattered. Every observation, every microsecond, became a thread woven into a strategy. She had taken my property, but she had also entered a space governed by rules she would never understand. The horizon darkened with early clouds, reflecting a sky bruised by approaching night. The world outside the marina continued its quiet routines, oblivious to the drama unfolding on one small stretch of water. No one would intervene. The sea would not negotiate. The law had its limits, the HOA even more so. But I did not need permission. I had awareness, preparation, and patience honed by years where mistakes were not an option. The first real motion of consequence began with her. A sharp turn that sent the boat rocking, the friends laughing nervously as they adjusted their stance. The waves seemed to answer, nudging the bow with an almost imperceptible insistence. A tension built in the air, tight as a wire, stretched across dock, water, and night sky. She didn't sense it yet, but the currents were shifting beneath her, outside and inside. As she pushed the boat further into the channel, the marina receded behind her, disappearing into shadows. Every second that passed brought her closer to a confrontation with the expertise she had dismissed, closer to a reckoning she could not anticipate. The night, the water, and I, all aligned silently, patiently, waiting for the inevitable. The stolen vessel was no longer just wood and steel. It was a stage, a test, a trap. And Karen, with her friends laughing behind her, had stepped into a play she could not control. The dock behind me, the marina around me, the waves ahead, all were silent witnesses to the setup. Every detail mattered. Every moment counted. By the time the first wave slapped against the hull with deliberate insistence, the night had already decided the rules. She had no idea I was aboard, not as a guest, not as a neighbor, not as a casual observer, but as someone trained to anticipate every motion, every miscalculation, every moment of overconfidence. The boat was hers in appearance only. In reality, the stage had been set. And the storm, both literal and metaphorical, was just beginning. The boat cut through the dark water, waves whispering warnings that went unheard by the laughter aboard. Karen's confidence radiated like heat, bold and unshakable, but fragile as glass. Every careless shift of her weight, every glance at the horizon, played into the rhythm I had memorized long before she ever touched the helm. The sea had a memory. It remembered every misstep, every tremor, every act of entitlement. Tonight, it whispered it all to me. Her friends leaned on the railings, joking, oblivious to the tension tightening around them like an invisible cord. The engine's hum became a heartbeat, echoing through the night, syncing with mine, a rhythm forged through discipline, patience, and preparation. Each reckless turn she made, each overconfident maneuver, sent subtle signals. A flinch of imbalance, a tilt of the bow, that mapped the boundaries of the chaos she invited. Lightning split the sky in distant flashes, illuminating the boat and the small waves that pressed against its hull. The water reflected her oblivion, a mirror of entitlement unaware of consequence. Every shadow dancing across the deck was a reminder she had crossed into a space where skill, patience, and knowledge mattered more than privilege. I moved silently, unseen, adjusting, anticipating, waiting for the moment her arrogance would collide with reality. The currents beneath the surface shifted subtly, guiding her toward areas she had no right to navigate. Each ripple carried a warning she could not perceive. The marina behind her faded into the night, leaving only the open water and the consequences she had invited. The storm approached silently at first, gusts brushing the surface, warning of what was coming. The wind whispered through rigging, tugging at the boat as if trying to correct her mistakes before they grew fatal. But she laughed, unheeding, certain of mastery she did not possess. Every movement on the boat, every shift in weight, every turn she forced upon the vessel, became part of a larger design. A rhythm I controlled, silently, patiently, unseen. The water itself seemed to wait, suspended in expectation, coiling energy beneath her hull, ready to respond to the moment she could no longer ignore. And then came the first real misstep, a sharp lean into a wave, a tilt she did not correct, a momentary imbalance. The bow dipped slightly, the water pressed closer against the hull, and I felt the shift, a small victory, a hint of inevitability. The night had begun to bend around the consequence she would soon understand. The laughter faded for a moment, replaced by instinctive tension, though she did not know why. Her confidence began to crack, though faintly, as the invisible hands of experience pressed down, tightening the space between action and consequence. The stolen boat, her carefree joyride, had become a stage. The rising tension coiled tighter with each passing second, the water beneath her, the wind above her, and the silent presence on board, all waiting for the inevitable confrontation she could neither predict nor escape. The first thread of reckoning had taken hold. The storm struck suddenly, a wall of wind and rain ripping across the water, turning the night into a blurred canvas of gray and silver. The calm Karen had assumed was her ally dissolved instantly, replaced by chaos she could not control. The boat pitched violently, waves slapping the hull with precise, punishing force. Each surge reminded her that the sea had rules, and entitlement had no place here. I moved with the rhythm of the vessel, every step deliberate, unseen, anticipating her miscalculations. The engine roared beneath her hands, but its power was meaningless without skill, and skill she had ignored until now. The spray of water soaked the deck, slick beneath her feet, forcing small adjustments that revealed the widening gap between arrogance and competence. She was not just untrained, she was unprepared. Lightning cut through the storm, illuminating her wide-eyed panic for a heartbeat. Shadows danced across the bow as the waves rose like walls, confining her movements. The friends she had brought clung to railings, their laughter gone, replaced by rising tension, the realization creeping in that the night held forces beyond their understanding. I guided the boat subtly, using nothing more than physics, experience, and timing. Every sway, every roll, every pitch aligned with the storm's fury, gently herding them toward deeper water where escape became a choice they could not make lightly. Karen's confidence cracked further, tiny misjudgments compounding as she fought to maintain control. The currents obeyed no HOA, no entitlement, no privilege, and neither would I. Her first attempt to straighten the course back to the marina failed. The rudder responded sluggishly under the untrained touch, the waves pushing against her, teasing disaster closer with every moment. Panic was a physical thing, weighing down the deck with invisible pressure. The laughter she once wielded as a weapon had evaporated, replaced by sharp gasps and taut, instinctive movements. The boat rolled sharply again, a calculated sway I had allowed to test boundaries. Water sloshed over the deck, soaking shoes, clothes, and resolve alike. She yelled, not at me, not at the sea, but at the realization that control was an illusion. That the vessel she had treated as a toy was alive with rules she had never learned. Every second, every motion, forced her deeper into the consequences of her theft. I moved with precision, staying close enough to influence the vessel's path, distant enough to remain unseen. The storm became an accomplice, each gust and wave timed perfectly, as if the ocean itself conspired to remind her of the respect she owed. The boat, once hers in appearance, had become a crucible for reckoning. A final wave, higher and sharper than the rest, pitched the bow violently. Her hands clenched the wheel, white-knuckled, trembling. For the first time, she understood that this was no ordinary ride, no playful excursion, no entitlement shielded by the HOA. The weight of her actions, the theft, the arrogance, the dismissal of boundaries, pressed down like the storm itself. The friends behind her scrambled, seeking balance, safety, comprehension, all impossible to find in the wake of calculated consequence. Their laughter never returned. Fear settled in, undeniable, unavoidable, and I knew it had rooted itself deep. Every motion I had orchestrated, every adjustment I had made, had led to this moment. The vessel, the waves, the storm, the night, all aligned in precision. And when the boat finally steadied, the panic in the cabin was complete. Karen's confidence, her entitlement, her illusions of control, had shattered completely. The storm receded slowly, leaving only the dark water and the silent presence she had never noticed. The lesson had been delivered not through confrontation, but through inevitability, skill against arrogance, preparation against ignorance, patience against impulsive entitlement. Karen had taken more than a boat that night. She had crossed into a realm she could never have anticipated, a place where consequence was absolute and preparation unbeatable. And she had learned, at last, the cost of assuming the rules could be bent in her favor. The water calmed, leaving a silence heavier than any storm. The stolen vessel, the laughter extinguished, the friends shaken, bore witness to a quiet but undeniable truth. Some boundaries exist not to challenge, but to demand respect. Some violations carry consequences that no privilege can erase. And tonight, she had discovered both. The storm had passed, leaving the water smooth and reflective, as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. Karen's stolen joyride had ended, her confidence stripped away by forces she could neither see nor control. The boat, once a symbol of entitlement, had returned to its rightful owner, silent, steady, and intact. The lesson had been delivered without words, without confrontation, through inevitability and skill honed over years. Her friends stood frozen, the laughter of the night replaced by the weight of understanding. The waves lapped gently against the hull, carrying away the chaos but leaving the truth behind. Some boundaries are absolute, and privilege does not protect those who ignore them. The marina, the dock, the silent houses beyond, none could erase what had happened, none could shield her from the reckoning. I watched from the shadows as the first light of dawn touched the water. The boat gleamed, unbroken, a testament to preparation, patience, and respect for the rules that govern more than property, rules that govern consequences. Karen had learned the hard way that entitlement cannot override experience, and that arrogance has limits enforced by more than bureaucracy or neighborhood politics. The sea, calm once again, reflected the lesson perfectly. Some lines are not negotiable. Some actions carry consequences that arrive quietly, inevitably, and without mercy. And as the morning mist rose from the water, a question hung in the air, unspoken but undeniable. How many boundaries must be crossed before the world teaches a lesson no one can ignore?